Hey guys, it's Showtime here, back with another video. In today's video, we will be looking back at the 2007-2008 Boston Celtics, a team that went from winning 24 games the previous season to ultimately beating the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals within a span of a year. Before we look at the rise of the Celtics, however, we must examine how bad this team truly was before 2008. Entering the 2006 NBA season, the Celtics actually had hopes that they would be able to improve from their 33-win season in 2005. The roster, although young, was filled with promising young talent. They had just drafted point guard Rajon Rondo out of the University of Kentucky with the 21st overall pick. They still had Paul Pierce, who was coming off his best season to date, where he averaged 27 points per game and made the All-Star team. They also still had Al Jefferson, a 22-year-old big man who'd shown promise that he could be a double-double machine for the next 10 years with his elite rebounding skills and refined post moves. Overall, this team was young and had massive amounts of untapped potential they had yet to discover. The team at the time was still coached by Doc Rivers and also had Danny Ainge as an executive. This team seemed destined to take the next step in 2006, finally becoming a playoff team once more after a 2-year absence. Unfortunately, some things are just not meant to be. The 2006 NBA season went as bad as it possibly could have for the Celtics. Although Paul Pierce continued to play at an all-star level and Al Jefferson averaged a double-double, the rest of the team was awful. Besides Paul Pierce, nobody else on the team could score consistently, and it caused the offense to stagnate. When teams would double-team Paul Pierce, there was nobody on the team who could step up and score efficiently. Guys like Delonte West and Wally Szczerbiak tried to fill the role, but they just struggled to shoot at a consistent rate, as both of them failed to average more than 15 points per game. The Celtics ranked 28th in the NBA in offensive efficiency that year because of this, and their problems didn't stop there. Although the Celtics had young talent, their bench was very inefficient. Some of their best role players included Tony Allen, Allen Ray, and Sebastian Telfair. To put how bad they were into perspective, their combined average points per game was 7.9, and none of them shot above 40% from beyond the arc. The team was so depleted when it came to depth that when injuries sidelined Paul Pierce, they were forced to start Brian Scalabrine. To understand why that was such a horrible idea, you must look back at his best statistical season. The most points per game Brian Scalabrine had ever averaged in a season was 6.3 in 2004. That season, however, is a major outlier as his career points per game average is 3.1. The worst part about it was they were forced to start him a total of 17 times during the course of the season. The third and the most vital reason why the Celtics only won 24 games in 2004 was injuries. Only Gerald Green, Rajon Rondo, and Sebastian Telfair were able to play more than 75 games that season. The rest of the roster's average for games played during the season was a pathetic 41.6. With all these factors, the Celtics finished the 2006 NBA season with a 24-58 record, a 9-win regression from the previous season, and good enough for the second worst record in the NBA that season, only to be topped by the Portland Trail Blazers. It was the Celtics' worst record since their 1996 campaign, where they finished with only 15 wins. It had become clear that this roster was nowhere near ready to compete for a championship, let alone a playoff berth. GM Danny Ainge and head coach Doc Rivers knew they both had to do something big, something that would alter the state of the franchise and turn them into contenders. And on June 28, 2007, Ainge made the first of 2 deals that would help make this dream a reality. After receiving the 5th overall pick and losing out on Kevin Durant and Greg Oden, despite having the second best odds to receive the number 1 overall pick, Danny Ainge made a splash. He traded the 5th overall pick, which would go on to become Jeff Green, Delonte West, and Wally Szczerbiak to the Seattle Supersonics for Ray Allen, and the 35th overall pick, which would eventually become Glenn Big Baby Davis. This trade would prove to be critical, as the Celtics finally acquired a scorer that would pair nicely with Paul Pierce. With Rajon Rondo now slated to be the team's starting point guard, the team already looked ready to compete for a playoff spot. But Ainge wasn't convinced. He still felt like something was missing. He knew they needed a dominant force down low to make the offensive attack more balanced. He figured that if he were able to add an all-star in the front court, nobody could stop the Celtics from beyond the arc or in the paint. That's when the Celtics made the biggest trade of the offseason, and quite possibly the biggest trade in their franchise's history. On July 31st, 2007, the Celtics acquired Kevin Garnett in exchange for Al Jefferson, Ryan Gomes, Theo Ratliff, Gerald Green, Sebastian Telfair, Boston's 2009 first-round pick, top 3 protected, the return of Minnesota's conditional first-round pick, previously obtained in the 2006 Ricky Davis for Wally Szczerbiak trade, and cash considerations. Although the Celtics were forced to give Al Jefferson along with the future first-round pick, the Celtics knew the deal had to be done. Kevin Garnett was the 2004 NBA MVP and had made the All-Star team the past 8 seasons. He would be a force in the paint that the Celtics hadn't had since the days of Robert Parrish. The trade, however, did leave major holes to the roster, and Ainge knew he had to add some depth to the now depleted bench. In free agency, the Celtics made 2 major signings that would help replenish the depth they had just lost. The first addition they made was signing combo guard Eddie House. Eddie spent the previous season with the New Jersey Nets, where he had averaged 8.4 points per game on only 17 minutes per game. He would add some scoring off the bench and would provide veteran leadership to guys like Rajon Rondo and Glenn Davis. Their second major addition was signing forward James Posey. Posey had proven he was an effective 3-and-D player who could provide defense against any team's top perimeter player. He was coming off a stint in Miami where he helped Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal bring a championship to the Miami Heat. He would also provide veteran mentorship as well as elite defensive skills. With these 2 signings, the Celtics had finally fixed their bench problem that had plagued them throughout the past 2 seasons. With Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett now in the lineup along with the development of their young core, the Celtics began to rise once more. They would go on to finish the season with a record of 66-16. This would be the best record in the NBA that season, and it was 28 spots better than the ranking the last season. As expected, the big 3 of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett dominated the NBA. Although some people question whether 3 All-Stars could coexist on one team, the Celtics made it work. Between the 3, they averaged 18.6 points per game combined, and they all attempted the same amount of shots per game at 14. Despite the success of the big 3, there were also some unexpected factors that played a role in the re-emergence of the team. For starters, Rajon Rondo developed into a force at the point guard position. He was able to use his elite passing skills to create shots for his all-star counterparts. He would go on to average 5.1 assists per game and 10.6 points per game. He wouldn't be the only breakout player, however, as Kendrick Perkins became a force as the team's starting center. He would average 7 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and an absurd 1.5 blocks per game. He would rank 15th best in the NBA in blocks that season, as well as 8th best in the NBA in block percentage. With the emergence of Rajon Rondo and Kendrick Perkins, along with the strong play of Eddie House, Leon Powell, and James Posey off the bench, the Celtics were able to dominate the NBA in every aspect of the game. Their offensive rating jumped to 10th best in the NBA, and their defensive rating jumped to number 1 in the NBA. The Celtics had left their mark on history with the turnaround they had within a span of 1 season, but they still had one more obstacle in the way of their quest for an NBA title: the Los Angeles Lakers. With Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and Derek Fisher, the Lakers were no pushover. After the Celtics had defeated teams like the Detroit Pistons, a team that had won the NBA championship in 2004, the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James, and the Atlanta Hawks, it looked like they'd be ready to take on the Kobe-led Lakers. After a grueling 6-game series, the Celtics had finally reclaimed the O'Brien Trophy after a 22-year drought. Their trades had finally paid dividends, and for the next 6 years, the Celtics would go on to dominate the Eastern Conference. It's crazy to think that just 1 season prior, they were considered to be the second worst team in the NBA. In the NBA, having young talent is never a bad thing. But what most teams in the NBA fail to realize is that you have to be able to develop that young talent. Otherwise, it can stagnate the development of your franchise. When Danny Ainge realized his team full of young, talented underachievers couldn't win anytime soon, he made the bold decision to swing for the fences and try to re-establish the Celtics as a contender. With this trade, not only did he manage to bring a title to the city of Boston, he also helped the Celtics go from winning 24 games to 66 games within the span of one season. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.